Thank you very much, Marta. I hope that everybody's listening to me well. I'm at home. You know that in this period it's better sometimes to stay at home to work instead of going into the government building. There are too much confusion, and so maybe the connection could be even better. So I'm pleased to be here and pleased to share with you some considerations about the possibility to use, to adopt the Wikimedia platform as a tool, as an environment where to build up educational experiences with schools. I will share with you, we have not so much time, so I will not have the time to share with you all the experiences, all the labs that I organized last years around this topic, but of course I'm available if you want after the presentation to answer to your questions or maybe to give to you some more information about my experiences. It's a question of let's say practice and theory joined together. So I will share with you some, basic concepts about where I started from, and then I will share some possible, developments in practice. So I share my screen, my presentation. But this is not the right one, I'm afraid. No, PowerPoint Live, no. No. So it's not that easy. Okay, here it is. So you see the screen? It's okay? So I can start.
Yes.
So what are the topics I will like to cover with you, share with you this morning? So I will start from some considerations. I made it very, very brief and concentrated consideration on about how the web is today and where it's going to. That it's, I think, very important if we want to build up, to develop resources on the web. Then what is the role in this renewed, this moving web, World Wide Web, the role of Wikimedia ecosystem? It's called, someone call it platform, someone call it environment, someone call it, project, but it's, I may say it's an ecosystem with a lot of projects, a lot of tools, a lot of different communities and sub-projects. So I like this definition, ecosystem, digital ecosystem, of course. What were the pros, were the positive outcomes in adopting Wikipedia at university, and then I will share with you some ideas about the opportunities for schools to adopt it inside schools. First of all, we are talking about heritage, so built heritage, or intangible heritage as well. So the tradition, the people, for example, who had a relationship, who had a role in schools. In this sense, I want just to share with you what is the tendency, what I find is the tendency or about the enhancing the descriptions, even the preservation of heritage. We are moving from just the preservation, the attention, specialistic attention to monuments, to people. So to the perception, to the responsibility of people, of communities against heritage. So we are moving from single objects to the functions of objects, and from preservation to use, to the use of heritage. The heritage is around us, especially in Europe, and it could be, a starting point from sustainable development. So this approach towards heritage is more dynamic, open, inclusive, and it includes, of course, traditions, customs, and local products. So building up resources, descriptive resources about heritage, it's not just building knowledge, it's starting up a collaboration, starting up an engagement for the people who's involved in. But let's go directly to the web. This is a quote from a book was written by Pierluigi. Maybe some of you know him. He's an anthropologist, he's a philosopher. He wrote this book in 1994, L'intelligence collective. That is a very interesting book. 1994 is the year when the first browser were developed in the United States. So it can be considered the practical starting of the World Wide Web. But he didn't know about that yet, of course. But he wrote that we are entering a post-media era in which communication technologies will serve to filter and help us navigate knowledge and enable us to think collectively rather than simply hold, so use masses of information around with us. Then he makes, a bitter consideration about the fact that the promoters, the big players, technological players in the world, instead of being aware of this idea of participation, of democracy, of collaboration inside and through the new post-media era, post-media environment, they are involved just in discussions about bandwidth. I like this quote because I don't know in your countries, but in Italy we are still discussing about bandwidth. And of course, it's a tool. It's of course absolutely useful to access the web, to participate in the web, but no one is discussing about the right to be inside the net, the right of citizens, the right of communities to participate, to access information. I would say something more about that, about the right to be informed, the right to participate later. So the question was, and I think it still is, but a lot of things has changed in those 25 years. We always move where we always, are in the middle of two extremes: collective intelligence, so invest on the building, on the quality of a collective intelligence environment, on the other hand, a global shopping mall. So the web of today is a global shopping mall, for sure. It's a place of chatting, but it is at the same time, I think, is a collective intelligence environment. So we can help affirming that the web is the information ecosystem we all use to increase our knowledge, to orient our choices, to interact with other people, institutions, companies, to maybe inform most of our daily decisions. How would it be the weather today? There's traffic along the road to my working place, and of course, much more complex and interesting things, politics, and so on and so forth. In some way, I don't think that the quoting, if something is not in internet, it doesn't exist. I think that we may say that it enforces the existence of things. The fact that the things are covered, are described, are present inside the digital galaxy, the digital infosphere, like it was wisely defined, enforces the existence of those things. the representation is part of existence. But I don't want to play the philosopher, because I'm not a philosopher, but I perceive, I mean, as an archivist, as a documentary professional, that the description, the representation, giving a shape to things, that means real things, concepts, people, and so on, gave to them a life, and probably a long-term life, much more than just living. You know that there are some theories about this on life we are living in. We are not just online, we are not just in real life, we live on life. That's, I mean, what we are living in this moment is, I'm at my house, I'm a physical person, I'm in front of my PC, and you are doing more or less the same. So we are living, we have a real life, but at the same time, we are sharing an experience, I hope interesting for you, for me for sure, it is, that is just online. So we join, we mesh up the two words inside an all life experience. This is the definition of Luciano Floridi. Let's go back to the web. It seems to be, it is, I think, the most popular and effective ecosystem for communities to collaborate. Communities communities at each level. I mean, a school class, or I mean, a village inhabitants, or I mean, professional communities like we are in this moment, for example. Communities could adopt the languages, the rules, the tools of the World Wide Web to collaborate, to put together their efforts, their competences, their skills, their generosity in some way, building up, I mean, a mechanism, put together things, ideas, and the reuse, the development of things and ideas. So this idea of sharing practices, languages, and potentials is possible now. It was always possible, I think, in human history, but now it's much more powerful and easy adopting the World Wide Web. If we go in specifically on heritage communities, so on this idea that culture exists because people decide that something is cultural. Sorry for being so rough, but we have not that much time, so I have to be too synthetic. The World Wide Web may support and consolidate heritage communities against their identity places. And I think the schools, of course, are strong identity places in our life, even in our territories, in our landscape, in our cultural landscape, let's say. The web information is at the moment, someone says 90% of information present in the web is created, modified, and shared by people. The other 10% or something is created by companies, commercial informations, official informations, but we live in a quite, dynamic and user-created, user-funded information world. So these considerations are not just theoretic, but I think they have to be the pillars where to build on our project if we want to adopt Wikipedia as a tool in our educational contexts. This is the web of today. The web of today is not more built and is less and less built, let's say, to be more precise, is less and less built on websites, even if the websites, of course, are important because they are the official voices of institutions, but they are not that funded, they are not often they're not updated, they are not ready to be to activate sharing and discussions with other informations. Websites are closed pieces of information, are more similar to a book than to a database. Maybe you know that the 98% of the World Wide Web is called the deep web. So it's not directly indexable, it's not directly accessible. If we don't build up a query to ask the access into that web. So it's just a small piece of information is websites in the information, in the, traditional sense of the word. Most of the web is made of data. And so the problem is to keep out those data, to make them accessible, to make them active, and even in some way automatically linked to one another. This is called the Web 3.0, or the web of data, or the semantic web, because the only solution to keep out data out of those databases is to give them, to give to data a meaning, a semantic content. And so there are languages, grammars, and technologies to give more sense to the web, to leave to machines, to leave to web agents the work of indexing, of proposing to us the correct information, and so on, and leave to us just the effort to read, to think, to share, to produce. In this galaxy of data sources, this is a picture of what is the situation today. It's not a drawing, an artistic drawing, but it comes directly from the data. This is the role of Wikipedia. You see it in the center. Wikipedia is a sort of knot where most of the other sources are connected, and so it connects places to people, to times, to chronology, to concepts, and so on. So Wikipedia, what are the origins of Wikipedia? Here I quote just for you very, very quickly the dream, the utopic ideas of Paul Otlet, that in the first half of the 20th century, he was a Belgian bibliographer. He founded the modern documentary sciences. He was dreaming the idea of a universal repository of all the world's recorded knowledge. So a global library, accessible library. So in some way he anticipated the advent of the World Wide Web. In 2001, Jimmy Wales, and together with other people, of course, he founded this utopic encyclopedia, online, non-profit, built on people's collaborations. So he turned upside down this idea that authoritative knowledge is made by authoritative authors. This idea of activating people, activating communities to work on knowledge could increase its quality and could it's a sort of it's a circular mechanism, creating activate knowing. So it increases the knowledge, the culture of communities, while they are contributing to universal knowledge. For free, like volunteers, and this is, a very utopic idea, a world in which every single person on the planet is given free access to the sum of all human knowledge. you see, we are talking about science, sci-fi and science, but the Wikipedia, so before the start of the Web 2.0 for the social networks and so on, started to build this shared, open, collaborative network of people, of ideas, of contents that, I mean, grew up, and now we may say that it's central, as we have seen, is central in the info sphere of today. So Wikipedia could be, I think, one of the best environments where we can involve and engage students, for example, students and teachers, students and professors, because we have to be part of the game, using the new web as smartly as possible, activating in case local stakes and collaborative dynamics. So the quite general goal is to share and promote cultural data in the Web 3.0. So activate communities, being an active and part in the web of today, that is not the web of websites, it's the Web 3.0, and make the people, young people, being an active part in this game, in this goal. So engagement, empowerment are the keywords in this framework. Wikipedia is based on very, very rough ethic, formal, and quality rules. I don't know if what is your perception of Wikipedia? There's a party, especially in the academic world, that is against Wikipedia, saying it's just an easy way for students not to study and just to copy and paste its context. I think that is we have to underline that is the quality of Wikipedia depends on us. So if something wrong is written on Wikipedia, we have just to click on modify and update the content. It's easy. We have not to pay anything. We have just to contribute to common, correct environment of data and information in this sense. But on the other hand, there are rules. There are very straight rules. I will say to you very, very quickly what are the pillars of Wikipedia, just to underline that I'm not talking about, a hippie, a flower, songs of flowers environment. Of course, inside Wikipedia there are a lot of people just interested in technology. There's people ignorant in the terms of the contents shared, but my approach is that we have to be part of the project if we want that its quality increases. Those rules are very rough, but at the same time they are free and open. So they are discussed by everybody. I will tell you better in what sense this is possible. Wikipedia ecosystem, we have not the time to discuss and to share the ideas on all of the projects inside Wikipedia. That's Wikibooks, for example. It's possible to write collaborative books together with other students, for example. There's Wikisource, there is a Wikivoyage for touristic guides, there's Wiki University, there's all those projects are around the Wikimedia environments. So let's focus this morning just on the encyclopedia, so Wikipedia. What are the 5 pillars of Wikipedia? I'm not giving to you so many, URLs, references to Wikipedia pages, because there are tons of pages explaining the history, the rules, the technical requirements. the practices, how to meet communities and so on. So I go directly to the focus of Wikipedia at university and in schools. So what are the 5 pillars? The first one is Wikipedia is an encyclopedia in the classical sense of the term. So it's not, a collection of information, of every kind of information. It's not specialistic, but it's an encyclopedia. So the topics covered in Wikipedia articles have to be encyclopedic. And who decides what is encyclopedic? The communities. So they can decide that a football player is worth to have in its Wikipedia article, and another one not, because it's just famous, for example, for 1 year, and then it would be forgotten, and so on and so forth. Of course, you see how it's interesting. So deciding what is cultural is a question of, we go back to the idea, it's based on people. It's not based on special or absolute rules, religious rules. It's based on what people decide. The second one, so there, just to say, this rule, this essential rule, the first pillar, opens up a lot of discussion, a lot of discussions, a lot of rules. There are different methods to decide what have to be deleted, what have to be maintained, what have to be developed, and so on, what have to be changed, and so on. The second, in Wikipedia, it has to be adopted and supported a neutral point of view, another utopistic approach, of course. So not affirming just a point of view, just a personal approach, a personal opinion about something, but in case to expose the different points of view on the same topic, on the same. Again, this can be guaranteed just if discussions are activated. So there will be people, communities, being part of Wikipedia to decide that a neutral point of view was adopted, if the neutral point of view was adopted or not. Wikipedia is free, is open, it's cozy. It has to be, if you think well, its interface, it sounds old. It's the same than in the 90s. So it's very, very simple. It's mostly based on text, less images. Images are not essential, are just something. So it's not dynamic. It's not the web of today. You see the websites of today are advertising websites, everything moving, fantastic images, fantastic effects, and so on. So it's easy, it's cozy, usability is usable, it's free. The principle is that we will never be asked to pay something to access Wikipedia contents, and it's open in the sense that it's made of everybody, collaboration and support. In the discussions, it's important to foster respect and active listening of others' point of view. So it's not possible to say it's the fault of this one if this Wikipedia article is wrong. We have just to go in and change what we decided is wrong, because we have updated sources and we can may add the right references to correct wrong or incorrect contents. The fifth pillar is that all the rules could be updated except these pillars. So every language community, Wikipedia, you know, is not organized in national chapters. It's organized in language chapters. So we have an English Wikipedia, a French Wikipedia, an Italian Wikipedia, Spanish Wikipedia, a Russian, and so on and so forth. There are almost 300 different language versions of Wikipedia. They have special rules. So the communities build up special rules, special tools to support the language communities. So those rules, those practical rules, could be updated, to be, let's say, declinated for different communities, except those pillars. An encyclopedia, neutral, free, open, and cozy, where respect have to be adopted all the time. All the materials, so we said that Wikipedia is free. What does it mean exactly? That every material inside the Wikimedia platform is freely reusable in respect of the Creative Commons by SA license. Creative Commons, you know, is an international project on opening up as much as possible the access to cultural contents, to creative contents. By SA means that you have to respect the attribution of the origin. So you have to say, I'm quoting this and it comes from this Wikipedia article. I'm using this image wherever I want, even for commercial purposes, but I have to say I took it from Wikimedia Commons, that is the multimedia archive of Wikipedia. So another interesting point of view, this is interesting for me, for my studies, that authority in Wikipedia is based on content, not on authors, not made by authors. But this is written by this famous professor. This is not interesting. Wikipedia, everything is anonymous. We can reconstruct in the chronology, with the chronology too, what author, what editors worked on an article, but it's not just an author. So content, the quality, the authority comes from content, and we may participate to make it better and better. Wikipedia has a so high ranking on search engines. We know that on Google, one of the first results for mostly everything is a Wikipedia article. That means that is a showcase, an identity card for built heritage. Images and multimedia Wikimedia Commons can be used, that are made and produced and uploaded by us, by communities, can be used to know, identify, collaborate, and produce print materials. Every Wikipedia article is structured in some sections. There's a title. What is the form of the title? There are good practices and templates to be adopted. We can write down a title, whatever we prefer. There's sometimes a reference to the Wikidata element. Wikidata is the element to support the Web 3.0, so the semantic web. I'm not going in deep for that. It's just a reference to a database of assumptions, semantic assumptions. There's the content that is typically organized into sections. On the top right, there's an info box, a synthetic presentation of the topic, often with a picture. Those data are those captured by Google and presented on the top right of search results page. We write down the name of our city on Google. We will have this info box on the top right, and this comes directly from Wikipedia. That's why Google stopped working on a platform or data platform like Wikipedia. They just make a donation every year to the Wikimedia Foundation. And an important part of Wikipedia are the source references, footnotes, bibliography. The value, the quality, the authoritativeness of Wikipedia articles comes from being based on references, bibliography, other Wikipedia articles, the presence of other content in other Wikimedia projects, and then references to portals and categories. This is a sort of, knowledge organization inside Wikipedia. Very, very consider that they are, billions of articles, it's easier to be carried out by these categories, these classifications. So title, yesterday I found a page of an English school. So this is the title, Larkmead School. This is the content, and this is the info box. So a picture, a map. Wikipedia is based on OpenStreetMap platform, so it have to be used OpenStreetMap. That is a sort of geographic Wikipedia, and then some other informations. As I was saying, if we look for a name of a place, this Visso is a city on the Apennines, on the mountains nearby Macerata, affected by the earthquakes of 2016. We see that the first result inside Google is the English Wikipedia article, the Italian Wikipedia article, and then the official website of the municipality of Visso. And then on the top right, we have the pictures coming from Wikipedia and information coming from Wikipedia. And then on the foot of every article, of every good article, we have the footnotes. Sorry, this is in Italian, but I think it's easy to understand it. Footnotes, so articles, books, and so on. Not just web content, but even printed articles and books, bibliography, and related articles, and the portals, name of the portals, and the categories. Wikipedia at university, in what sense? Sorry, I had to be really very quick. We could discuss about those things for hours and hours, but this is not the right moment to do it. Let's go into the core of my presentation. Why and what are the outcomes in adopting Wikipedia at university? First of all, Wikipedia is a great place to start, not to close, not to end research. This concept is obvious for us. For us teachers, instructors, it's not that easy to be perceived by students, maybe at the beginning of their study. So it's a place where we can train students to use sources, to make them understand deeply that the quality of what we write and the quality of what we read as users is based on trustful sources. Another question, quite interesting question, general cultural question. Who needs to be documented? The question of encyclopedism. So it's an occasion to reflect on priorities. Why it's interesting to write about that church, that tree, that landscape, that wine, that people, that famous people, and so on. A reflection on priorities in a very wide sense, in the sense, based on encyclopedism, is an interesting educational topic, I think, to be discussed with students. An opportunity to discuss the top-down dynamics of knowledge creation, especially at university. We have to deal with those mechanisms of evaluation of the quality of our scientific products that it's going towards, even absurd mechanisms sometimes. But anyway, there are in every time, in every era, there were different dynamics of knowledge creation, sharing, and so on. So the authority of content, the authority of authors, the authority of topics. This could be another interesting topic to discuss with students. And then is an opportunity of training about disciplinary skills. It depends on the topics and on the available sources. We could write, there are a lot of very good articles, for example, on ICT in Wikipedia, very good articles on hard sciences, on physics, on biology, very, very good articles in general. Of course, they depend on the availability of good and trustful sources and the disciplinary skills of who wrote those articles. And on the other hand, soft skills, learn, to put in discussion what I'm doing, to learn to listen to the others, critical thinking, dynamics of collaboration, so working in groups, the respect of diversity and of different opinions, the perception of knowledge dynamics. So the web is not more a technical question, except for ICT engineers that are experts in that. It's more a question of being part, understanding knowledge dynamics. The question of media and information literacy, I will say something better more later, and activation, of course, of hands-on and collaborative labs. Learn by doing and learn by collaborating. As regards the media and information literacy, I just very, very quickly show to you this manifesto of UNESCO about the 5 laws of media and information literacy. So every citizen in the world needs the right, to every citizen in the world have to be given the right to access, to understand, and to use digital information. The digital information is changing all the time, so we have to be trained, we have to be updated, we have to write to be updated. And one of the means to obtain, to reach this goal is to participate, not just to use, not just to access information. Another interesting topic to be discussed is the question of language. Since Wikipedia is a second or third level digital source, is not the first level source, but is a second or third level based on other references, so it's a non-specialist source, the language have to be easy and quick to understand, not just a copy-paste from other web sources. So the language in Wikipedia, writing Wikipedia, we have to be very careful about not being too specialized, not to use too many metaphors, for example. It could be not easy to be, deconstructed by users, by readers. We have to avoid too long engravings that we use when we write in our specialist channels of communication. We have to avoid long sentences in italics. There are a lot of interesting questions to ask to ourselves. Obviously, this is not easy. And what I recommend, for example, I did it inside a workshop I organized at university, is to involve someone else, someone not directly involved in writing the article or expert in the article topics, asking someone else to read the article and check if it is easily understandable. So the draft version the students are working in could be improved, and the students could learn what does it mean to be clear, to be direct, to be easy when they write. About historical schools, I'm going towards the end. Sorry for being a little bit too late, Marta. So teachers and students could set up labs, so workshops, labs on Wikipedia, starting from the basics on what does it mean to write a Wikipedia article in terms of technical questions, use of tools, the pillars, the question of license about content, the use of sources, and so on, and then start to put their hands on. So it's an occasion to activate discussions on methods, on topics, so the priorities, what to write about, on sources. The presence of a library inside schools is quite important. Librarians have to be involved in those labs, I suggest. The question of language, the question of multimedia, the opportunity to translate, to version articles in another language into our language, or the contrary, start from an article in our language and to translate it in other languages. Some topics that can be, I think, considered inside a lab, inside a school, could be to write down an article on the school as an institution. Of course, we have to reflect, is it worth to be encyclopedic, our school? It has a story. What is its story? What are the sources about the story? Then sometimes schools, even new schools, have an historical building. So the historical building could be another article, or an article on the building. So the architect, the tendencies, the style, and so on, the restorations, and so on. Some schools have very interesting cultural collections. So, technical tools, pieces of art, and so on and so forth. This is another topic to be considered. And then the personalities, the personality whom the school is entitled, or to whom the school is connected. People, famous professors, famous students, and so on. And then, of course, the school could be a center of attention to the surroundings, the district where the school is, the city, the parks, notable monuments, and so on. Just to quote you very, very quickly, an experience that I organized last winter. I supported a local project of an association, a social association, especially that with the goal of involving elders in social activities, and the mid-level school of Tolentino. Tolentino is a city nearby Macerata, where our university is. The goal of this project was to activate a dialogue between elders and young students about their city and its traditions. My proposal, and what we did, was to use Wikipedia. Wikipedia is the Wikipedia for children that is active in several languages. It has exactly the same rules of Wikipedia, but of course it's more easy. It's different, the target is different, the community that works on articles. So it's a quite interesting environment where to work in. What was done? The young student interviewed the elders. They re-elaborated the results of the interviews and wrote 2 articles about their city, its meeting places now and in the past, so new social dynamics, putting in comparison their experience and those of elders, the cooking traditions, so the recipes of the city, and the story and the legend about this Ponte del Diavolo, Devil's Bridge, that is a very typical monument of the city. They collected all pictures and they went out in the city as soon as it was possible in the pandemic period, and they shot their original pictures and added them to Wikipedia. I leave you a very, very summarized list of references about those topics. I thank you very much, and I'm, of course, ready to answer to your comments.